is the future.
All grit.
Evolution. This is the future.
All grit.
Evolution.
All grit.
What is up, though, Lions fans? It's your boy Chef, and we are back. And it is a different time right now. It is time for the All Grit podcast. I'm your host, Chef, and joining me today will be Rocked On Detroit Lions, Will Rock. Now, if you guys do not know Will Rock, I'm pretty sure you do. Will Rock is the owner of the Rocked On Podcast Network, and he does a great, wonderful, fantastic job with Lions coverage. He is a stat guy. He is a numbers guy. He is all about the evidence.
And the grit.
And the grit. Don't forget the grit. If you haven't gotten your popcorn ready, I suggest that you do. And maybe some grits.
There you go.
Ready as well. All right, put them on the stove.
When we were off talking off air before, earlier today, for some reason talking about all this grit, I said, man, some like Cajun shrimp grits just sounds really good right now. It's just making me hungry, but I'm glad to be here, man. I think that this is going to be a fun show for you and definitely for the fans. I'm looking forward to the content that you're going to bring. And I know you got some good lineup for us tonight. So I'm going to sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. So it's all Chef tonight. When I get asked, I'll speak. Otherwise, I'm here just to watch and have some fun. So let's go Lions. Let's do it.
Just sit over there and try to look pretty.
That's hard.
So, guys, we are going to be kicking off, the podcast today, and it will be stripped for audio, and we'll be uploading it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. So we're going to have minimal chat interaction today. You guys watch me, I like to interact with the chat a lot. So we will hold that until the end of the topics. And then we'll get you guys back in and ask you guys some questions. What did you think about the topics and things of this nature? So feel free to go ahead and do that amongst yourselves while we are speaking. But let's go ahead and get started. Today, we are talking about mostly the bane of all of our existences, PFF. And we're talking about how that jives with what the Lions are doing. Do we think that the PFF and there are other publications, right? Do we think that they are slighting us? Do we think that they are accurate? Do we think that they're just speaking a bunch of nonsense, right? And this is all grit, so we're not going to hold back. We're not going to pull any punches. All right, so the first topic that we are going to talk about today is Kirby Joseph. Now, I think all of us as Lions fans love Kirby Joseph, but you would think that PFF loves Kirby Joseph too, because the way that they've been ranking him and doing all of these things. But they recently put out a list of the top 32 safeties. Now, was Kirby Joseph on that list? Let's find out. Spoiler alert, he was not. Kirby Joseph was not on that list. So before I get into what I think about it, we're going to get into what Doug Farrar thinks. Now, if you don't know who Doug Farrar is, he's the NFL editor for USA Today Sports Media Group, and he is a voter. He is a voter for the MVP and All-Pro. Now, what he said in a tweet about Kirby Joseph, he said that the Lions tasked safety Kirby Joseph with a lot of deep third responsibilities is because he can move smoothly to either boundary, and his anticipation for the ball is top notch. 833 snaps at high safety last season, 9th most in the league. He was quoted as saying That's when last year he had 1 tackle for loss, 81 solo tackles, 10 stops. That means run stops, and 1 quarterback pressure. In coverage, where his value was most readily apparent, Joseph allowed 34 catches on 60 targets for 512 yards, 245 yards after the catch, no touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 13 pass breakups, and an opponent passer rating of 57.1.
Wow.
That sounds like a top safety to me. What do you think, Will?
Absolutely. Just to kind of touch on the deep third, who was that? Farrar?
Doug Farrar, yes.
Yeah. So to touch on the deep third responsibility for safeties, typically what they're trying to do there is cloud a dominant wide receiver. And as we know, the Lions went up a few dominant wide receivers last year, Justin Jefferson towards the tail end of the season, but they had a few opportunities to go up against CeeDee Lamb. They went up against too. I mean, he crushed them. But typically you've got, a safety running the deep third, trying to cloud, a dominant wide receiver. And then the cornerbacks are trying to jam and then sink at the line of scrimmage and really responsible for everything underneath, which clearly the Lions got eaten alive underneath last season. Everything over the middle was wide open. So it's interesting that his stats were that good. Did you say 57.1% passer rating against?
Yes, I did.
And no touchdowns?
None at all.
That's insane. And you said that he's also not in the top 32 by PFF.
He is not.
That's completely nuts to me. But anyway, carry on. Yeah.
Crazier thing about that situation is that those stats came from PFF.
So hold on. They put out their own stats.
Yeah.
Obviously of what Kirby Joseph did for the entire season. Mm-hmm. I hope that we have something that kind of tells us where he kind of stacks up against some of these other guys, but that sounds like extremely good stats. So is this free safety or all safeties that they're talking about here?
It's just all safeties. They said top 32 safeties in the league.
Yeah, and really there's 64, right? I mean, not everybody runs a single high safety, but you've got 64 safeties free and strong. But if they really want to go top 32, they're just calling out who the best safety is. I mean, that's kind of convoluted too, isn't it? I mean, you kind of need 2 safeties on a team to do different things, but Kerby should be there. I mean, I wouldn't say that. Like, if you want my true opinion, I wouldn't say that he's a top 10 or a top 15. I mean, I think that he made some big mistakes, but I also think that he was a product of the cornerbacks. I think that, we had a big problem with the cornerback room, and, that bleeds into the safeties, just like it causes issues for the defensive line. But
yeah. So there were a lot of plays where, and Dan Campbell spoke to this in a recent press conference when he was talking about how there were guys just kind of not doing their jobs and other guys having to compensate for them or overcompensate. And it's the same issue that we had the year prior. Remember when we started 1-6 and the defensive scheme had to be what did they call it? Simplified.
Yeah.
Right. And that's because a lot of guys were out of position, not doing their jobs. And then the other guys that were kind of compensating for them weren't trusting them, because why would you trust a person when you have to do his job for him? Right. So that was the issue. And they had to simplify that. And there was a little bit of that last year, especially with Kirby Joseph. I mean, you see his stats, but he was in plays where you saw him out of position or things of that nature. Well, Cam Sutton was getting cooked. Jerry Jacobs was getting cooked. Kendall Vildor was getting cooked. Like, people were getting cooked and they were letting up on their assignments. So he had to kind of, jump in there for other people. Now, the next part of this was the actual PFF list, right? So this PFF list was written by Zoltan Boudet, right? And
wait, who?
Zoltan. Yeah, that used to be a cartoon.
That's the machine. That's the machine, right? The same thing that they just displayed for Dan Campbell at the draft, the Zoltar machine, I guess it was.
Yeah, Zoltar. Yeah,
Zoltar.
I feel like Zoltan was was like in He-Man or something.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I think that was, but Zoltan Boudet of PFF. Now PFF has a lot of contributors, and we will call them offenders. They have a lot of offenders. Zoltan Boudet apparently is one of them. He recently ranked the top 32 safeties in the NFL, and Joseph is nowhere to be found on the list.
Well,
Now
hold
we
on a
want to
sec.
know.
Hold on. I don't know what just happened, but did you guys all hear that soundbite playing? I don't know if we just had somebody subscribe or what, but I think we've got some things turned on in the background that were turned off at one point, but maybe not for this channel. So I apologize. Go ahead.
All good, all good. I didn't hear it. So what we want to know is, was it a snub or was it just sheer oversight? Now, I don't understand how you could have an oversight when you are the one that compiled the stats. When you work directly with these stats, how can you have an oversight? You want to expound on that, Will?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's look, I think that PFF is great at what they do with stats. I think that they're great at putting together, all of the, different key performance indicators and the metrics and the statistics and, all of the information that people like myself love to consume. I think that the problem that they're having is when they try to convey their take, right? That, what they believe about these players, they seem to forget that they just put this information together. And I don't want to call it like a big conspiracy or anything like that, but maybe there's something going on here where PFF is just full of what. There's been a reason why, people like Aaron Rodgers and others at the Pat McAfee show have kind of called out PFF and pretty much said that they suck. I don't really have an opinion one way or the other, but I'll say this. If you're putting these stats together and then you come up with some cockamamie ranking system that totally goes against the stats you just put together, I think that's a problem.
Yeah, I 100% totally agree. I liken it to, let's say, a teacher, right? A teacher gives you 90%, 90%, 90%. And then on your final report card, you have an F. It's like, how did you get that F? Like, the stats are there. I got 90% on everything. Where's the F coming from? That's what I look at that's how I look at PFF. And we'll get into some of the possible conspiracy later on in the show when it comes to PFF and how they manifest their ratings. So here's the thing. I want to just take a look at some of the PFF top safeties, and we're going to compare those people to Kirby Joseph. All right. So we will start from the top 10. We will start with number 10. It was Tyrann Mathieu. Tyrann Mathieu of the New Orleans Saints. His 2023 season, he had 75 tackles. Kirby Joseph had 82. Tyrann Mathieu had 4 interceptions. So did Kirby Joseph. Tyrann Mathieu had 9 passes defensed, and Kirby Joseph had 11 passes defensed. Now, on stats alone, who's the better safety?
I mean, stats alone, Kirby had 7 more tackles, 2 more passes defense. I mean, if you were to base it just on stats, obviously Kirby has an edge.
Yeah.
I got
PFF doing what they do. We have to base it on the stats.
Yeah, and just so people can see here, there's the graphic. I don't know who put the graphic up, but I think it's a PFF graphic.
Yep.
That's what they put up. So, if that's what they believed in, then how did they put Kirby outside of the top 32? It doesn't make any sense.
No idea. So let's move on to the number 6 safety. The number 6 safety is Javon Holland. Javon Holland had 74 tackles to Kirby's 82. He had 1 interception to Kirby's 4. and he had 4 passes defense to Kirby's 11.
Okay. And he was the number 6 safety ranked?
He is the number 6 safety in PFS ranking.
Well, that's it doesn't make any sense, does it?
No, it doesn't. It
Well,
doesn't
let
make
me
any sense at all.
let me throw this out there. Is Kirby getting is he getting screwed over because the corners were so bad? You know what I
don't
mean?
know. But I don't know how you
It
could
shouldn't
get
affect him,
screwed
but
over. Yeah, I don't know how because his stats are excellent. And a lot of his stats did come with him doing his responsibilities, and a lot of his stats did come with him making up for other people. So if you're covering for someone else at a somewhat high level, I don't understand how that could allow you to be penalized. You know what I mean?
oh,
So like,
hey, we got some breaking news.
what's the breaking news?
You want me to share it?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. According to Aaron Wilson, the Lions are expected to sign all UFL kicker, the strong-legged kicker, Boom Boom Bates, Jake Bates, per league sources, is signing with the Detroit Lions. So there's your breaking news. Just like we talked about this morning. Look, I thought that the Lions were making room here. They had 89 out of 90 available on the roster. Man, what a call, but welcome to the Detroit Lions, Jake Bates. This is awesome, man. Super excited. I know it's going to make Eric happy. So again, according to per league sources, and shout out to Braylon Dennis for keeping me up to speed here on breaking news while we're live.
Yep. So, hey, listen, man. The moment that I called that man Jake Bates Motel, I know you call him Boom Boom Bates, but I call him Jake Bates Motel because his leg is Psycho. And if anyone's seen the movie Psycho, they would understand the Bates Motel reference.
Yep.
But the first time we saw him do it was in Ford Field. And I was like, that's just too much of a coincidence for him to be in Michigan, in Detroit, in Ford Field, right? It's not like he was in Michigan kicking at the remnants of the Pontiac Silverdome. No. He was inside of Ford Field. And I said, that's just too good to be true. He's got to become a Detroit Lion. And the Detroit Lions made that happen. So I'm excited about that. I think we will kick field goals this season. I think we will.
Yeah. I mean, I at least feel like this is going to be an opportunity for camp competition. You know, I also made the reference this morning that the Lions have been so wishy-washy. You know, you could bring in an extremely good kicker like this and still be wishy-washy enough where they don't pull the trigger. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I'm excited to at least see him in camp this year. It's a great move by Detroit Lions. Great move.
Definitely 100%. All right. So let's get back to this. We are going to now break down the number 2 PFF ranked safety. Now, these stats are extremely similar. All right. And I'm not going to say who it is. We're just going to say a name. We're going to talk about the stats, and then we are going to put up the graphic afterwards so everyone can see who this person is. Now, this person has 81 tackles, and we know Kirby Joseph has 82. This person has 4 interceptions. And we know Kirby Joseph also has 4. This person had a whopping 13 passes defensed, and Kirby Joseph had 11. Now, if you said that this is the number 2 safety, and Kirby Joseph has 1 more tackle, the same amount of interceptions, and 2 less passes defense, where would you say, just based off of understanding what I just said, the number 2 safety, without any other context, where would you say Kirby Joseph lands after stacking up this almost identically well to the number 2 safety?
I mean, he's got to be right there. I mean, according to stats, right, without any eye test, if you're just looking at stats, and this gentleman is number 2, And if there was nobody better than Kirby Joseph between 2 and 4, then wouldn't he be number 3?
Yeah.
You would think.
You would think.
Well,
logic dictates that that's where he should be. So go ahead and put up the graphic and we can see who this young man is.
The guy that I was hoping the Lions were going to pick up a couple of seasons ago in the draft, Kyle Hamilton, as you can see right there.
Now, for all of you football fans, you know who Kyle Hamilton is. Kyle Hamilton is a beast. He's a monster. He's all of the things that you would expect in a Baltimore Ravens safety. I'm not going to compare him to Ed Reed or anything of that nature, but Baltimore, they just know secondaries. They know DBs. They know linebackers. Hell, they know defensive ends, right? So Baltimore, let's amend that. Baltimore knows defense, right? The Baltimore Ravens know defense, and that has always been a staple of Baltimore. So again, I don't know. I'm clueless. I haven't seen Zoltan defend himself. Now there's another guy on PFF, and we'll talk about him later. I've seen him try to defend himself, but he just seemed to dig a deeper hole. So what do you think overall about Kirby Joseph not being on this list of top 32 safeties after seeing how he stacks up against some of the top ones on the list?
All right, so this is where I'm a mixed bag, because statistically speaking, Kirby Joseph is obviously up there in the top, 5 at least, but literally the top 3-4 safeties in the league. I think from the eye test, though, I think that's where we have a problem. Now, the one stat that I don't have, up here right now to compare against is how many snaps did he play compared to these other guys. I'm taking a look back here. So he played 833 snaps last season at, high safety. Mm-hmm. So that's probably, 85% of the defensive snaps. That's pretty darn good. So you can't say that it's not for a lack of snaps. You can't say it's for a lack of, not being on the field. His statistics are good. I think that the problem that he's having with some of these other analysts is it's the Detroit Lions. And I don't care how good the Lions are. They are not going to give them any credit. Matter of fact, today, and I don't know if we'll talk about this later, but like today, something popped up while we were talking backstage. And I'm like, I can't believe this guy is giving, this individual credit. Like, it blew my mind that one of the guys that has been so inflammatory against the Lions was actually giving the Lions some credit today. So I don't know, man. From the realistic side of this, when I give Kirby the eye test, I think that he still has a lot more work to do. I think that he's still a little suspect. Even though his passing statistics were pretty good, my biggest concern for him was honestly instincts. And I know that that's a big thing that we've talked about the last couple of shows, this week. Instinctually, I feel like he fails at times. I think that there's more to him, though. I think that the Lions can get more out of him. Absolutely. I think that he can become a better player. And I think that this year he's going to be a much better player with the revamped cornerback room, Carlton Davis, Amik Robertson, Terrion Arnold, Ennis Rakestraw. I mean, you got some powerhouse players now that are going to help him. And I think that that's the biggest key to this, is having competent players around him so that he can play better. If he had the same exact stats as the rest of these guys this season, and our pass defense is not ranked in the trash, and we're up in the top 15 of the league, then you can't leave him out of the top 5. So I'm 50-50. Like I said, I'm a mixed bag. I mean, the eye test, I feel like there's some improvement there. The statistics, I mean, they don't lie. That's the one thing about stats, is they don't lie. It's like math, it just doesn't lie. So I guess that's where I'm at.
Well, they say that men lie, women lie, and numbers don't. But apparently, numbers also lie. So everybody lies.
Yeah.
So look, what I think about Kirby Joseph, man, is that Jim O'Neill said earlier this week that Kirby Joseph is the kind of guy that makes it scary to go over the middle. Obviously, we know he has excellent ball skills. This is how he became Aaron Rodgers' father. He would pick him off. He was the only. What was he? The only DB to intercept Aaron Rodgers twice in the same game. Something like that. I think he picked him off like 3 times that season. It was just nuts. It was nuts. He absolutely owned Aaron Rodgers, and he sent him packing. Pun intended, no pun intended. You guys be the judge. He sent him packing. He sent him out of the NFC North all the way to do ayahuasca in New York.
Yeah.
But that's what we have on Kirby Joseph. So the next topic that we wanted to get into today.
You want to take some chat before you get into the next one?
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that.
So there was a couple of comments in here. So Mike P says Kirby freelances a lot, and is out of alignment, leaving huge gaps in that deep third. What else did we have in here? We had a couple comments about Jake Bates. Obviously, a lot of fans are super excited. J-Rod says having a leg is a great weapon to have. Helps in so many ways. Here's a question that I have for you, just based on, the news of Jake Bates. Not to get too crazy off topic, but do you think if the Lions do end up keeping Jake Bates for the season and he's kicking good, 90+%, kicking well, do you think Fourth Down Dan is going to stay committed to Fourth Down Dan?
I think Fourth Down Dan is going to stay committed to the situation. Fourth Down Dan, I don't think Fourth Down Dan was as risky and as gambly as people like to think he was. I think it's all a feel thing. There were some times where we would think that just kick the field goal, man. Like your offense is sputtering. You can't get any points. You just need to take the points. And I think from his perspective is he was just having trust in his offense and saying, something's gotta shake. Something's gotta come and go in our favor. Now, if it was the third quarter, nothing went in our favor all season, so you should have just kicked the field goal. So hopefully we don't have that problem coming out this year. But again, I don't think that he will change based on the fact that we have a kicker. Now, I think that if you definitely need 3 points and 3 points wins you the game, he can be a lot more confident in the person that he has out there if he's kicking well.
So a couple of other messages in the chat here. Brandon Hurt says, how does that factor into fourth downs now? I think that Chef did a good job answering that. Me personally, I think that Dan Campbell is Dan Campbell. And I think that when you listen to what he says, he's going to stick to his guns and who the team is and who they have been and what their identity is. And they were confident in all of their decisions. He made it seem as if the lack of trust in a kicker was non-existent. Like they had trust in Badgley or Patterson. They chose to stick to their guns and stick to what they've been doing all season. So I don't think it changes much. I do think that maybe if there's a longer field goal opportunity and they really trust in, let's just say it's Bates, that maybe he would potentially go for a longer kick. Not so much the shorter ones, because I feel like they feel more confident. If it was a 30 to 45 yard field goal, I feel like they're more confident in moving the ball or turning the ball over, as opposed to, a longer kick. Man, turning the ball over right there sucks either way, whether you're going for it on fourth down or not. But if the game's on the line, I think that Dan would probably elect to take a kick at least one more time than not if he had a kicker he extremely trusted. But then again, he said he trusted him. I don't really
Here's the
see
thing.
much. Yeah, I don't see much else really in the chat about Kirby Joseph here. Mike P says, I agree, Chef. I think the DC will change if odds call for it according to down and distance over 50 yards. So there you go.
But here's the thing that we're also maybe discounting. So Dan Campbell, for some reason, and I understand, he's a highly motivational coach. He wants everyone to feel comfortable enough to do their jobs, right? He doesn't want people to feel like they're on edge and not be able to perform. But he said that he had trust in the defense, and the defense wasn't great. Now we have a secondary. Don't you think he'll have even more trust in this defense?
Oh, I 1,000% want to believe that. I just haven't been to training camp yet, so I haven't seen anything with my own eyes. I will say this. If the defense is as good as advertised, then 1,000% Dan could go for it more than he has in years past or seasons past, because he's going to have that trust.
I just don't want to see him going for it from our own 20. So that's just.
Why not? We did it last year in the Chiefs game, didn't we? From like the 28-yard line, like in the opening possession with Jalen Reeves-Maybin.
We did, but that's a break glass in case of emergency type of move, and I hope we're not in more of those emergency situations this year.
And he pulled his Steelies out and set them on the ground and said, "Look at me, guys! I'm going for it." Dude, I swallowed my tongue when he decided to do that. I couldn't believe it. Yeah. All right, what's up next?
All right, up next, go ahead and throw up that graphic. This is a picture that has been going around. The Lions may potentially break out a death lineup, right? What did they call the Warriors called this the Hampton Five? They called it the death lineup when they had KD. Now you see on this picture, you see Jamison Williams, number 9. You see Sam Laporta, number 87, and you see Amon-Ra St. Brown, number 14, lined up in a trips set.
Wow.
Now, as a DB, I'm crapping my pants if I'm over there on that side seeing that type of a lineup. There are multiple passing concepts that can come from this situation. You send J-Mo long, deep from the inside, and the inside of the field is now wide open because you got to send a safety with J-Mo. If he comes and lines up there and he just runs a fly route, whatever cornerback is on him he needs help. And once he vacates that area of the field, now let's say Sam Laporta runs a post, right? Further punishing the middle of the field. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown comes in behind both of them running a quick slant. What are you going to do with that, Will? What are you going to do with
There's not much you can do with it, but here's the one question I do have. Part of the photo that we don't see is we see
on the other side.
Yeah, so we see Montgomery back here. Where's Gibbs? Is Gibbs behind the line on this play? Because now you've got speed out of the backfield. You got speed off the trips inside. You've got a big body in the middle. And then you've got the craftiest guy in the world on the outside where he doesn't belong. But I just want you to, if you can, even for 1 second, notice Sam Laporta. Can you tell how much slimmed down he is? And I don't see any baby fat on him this year. He came into the league last year with a lot of baby fat. He was chunky in the face. He was chunky in the upper body. He was in great shape. Don't get me wrong, but he is all legs and all arms and ready to rock and roll. So you can't stop this. I don't see any defensive backfield that is going to be able to hang, 1, with J-Mo speed, 2, with the nimbleness and craftiness of Amon-Ra St. Brown. And Sam Laporta is a bully. And that's why I call him Sammy the Bull, because he's a bully and he makes plays where plays don't exist. You can put him up in any route tree and he can run it. And then if you've got Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield, there is no way you're going to be able to stop this set. There's just no way. This is going to be an extremely fun offense. Like if there's multiple chapters to the playbook, and if we've been through 3 chapters so far, like this is now chapter 4 and 5 that we're starting to get into in Ben Johnson's offense, where we're going to see even more out of this team than we have in years past.
Yeah, 100%. And I would also even submit to you just another wrinkle in this situation. What if you got Gibbs on the other side? Single
Split out.
coverage.
Yeah, split out wide.
Yeah.
Or even in the slot. Yeah, so if that's your four wide receiver set, man, I assume at this point you're going nobody in the backfield. So
yeah,
that would be insane. Then you could probably start with Gibbs, in the backfield and then swing him out in motion, right? So his legs are already moving, and then he takes off at the snap, and that's even more difficult. Here's what I would do. I would do a double motion on this. This is why I'm going to get that whiteboard put up, because we're going to be running plays this fall, between you and I or whatever. We'll be running some plays. But imagine JMO going towards the line in motion, right? He makes it to the tackle and then it's snapped, right? And at the same time, Gibbs is in motion. I'm pretty positive you can do double motion in the NFL now. If you can't, that's fine. You put one in motion, you put the other one in motion. You get Gibbs out wide, and then you send JMO. It's curtains. You're not going to be able to stick with him or either of them. If their feet are in motion, they are gone. So fun stuff, man. It's going to be exciting. Training camp is going to be a blast.
It is. And then here's a final play for you to pontificate upon.
Pontificate.
What happens if you motion Gibbs to the trip side, and now it's 4 receivers over there? So obviously everybody comes over, and then you hit JMO with a jet sweep the other way around.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the wrinkles, like you said earlier, are endless. You know what I mean? There's no regenerist oil overlay defense that's going to be able to smooth these wrinkles, man. They're just going to be doing their thing.
That was a good one. All right. So I see what you did there. I picked up what you put down. So obviously, as we said, that's a death lineup. And then, obviously, if you did go single back and you had Monty in the backfield, that's just another thing that they're gonna have to deal with, because Monty can also catch out of the backfield.
Yeah.
And then if you're just gonna hand it off, I mean, the box is so light that he's running against at that point. Like everyone is spread so thin. So man, it's a lot. It's a lot. All right.
All grit all day. You know what I mean? All grit all day. These Lions are just doing it.
They are 100%. All right, let's go ahead and get to our next topic. Now, this is another situation from PFF. Now, it's not as inflammatory. It's actually a little bit favorable. Just a little bit favorable, though.
Yeah.
All right. So we're talking about PFF giving us the odds to win the NFC North. The Lions are at 36%. Green Bay Packers are at 29%. The Bears are at 21%. And the Minnesota Vikings are at 13%. Maybe a little bit tighter of a race than some people are comfortable with. But what do you think about this, Will?
Yeah. Lions at 36%, Packers at 29%, Bears at 21%, Vikings at 13%. So immediately I would say this. They gave the Bears way too much credit. You can take probably, 5-6 points away from the Bears, and you could probably take 3 or 4 points away from the Packers and throw that on the Lions. I've got the Lions to win this division, probably 45%. I mean, I would go over 50%, but I'll be nice and I'll say it's probably 45 to 25 to 15. I don't know if these numbers work. I'm not adding them up to, 10. I don't know if those numbers even work, but That's probably where I would be. Look, the Vikings are going to have a rough year. They're going to have a good defense, but they're going to have a rough year. They can play spoiler this year because of their defense, but I don't think that they're going to win a lot of games because of their offense. I mean, they still have some good players. Aaron Jones, went to Minnesota. They re-signed Jefferson. They added, some defensive minded players to this team. They really went hard on their linebackers, but I just don't give them any credit because JJ McCarthy he's not ready, in my opinion. And if he is, that would be a huge shock. Caleb Williams is a dumpster fire. Like he is in trouble. Especially going up against the Lions defense. I think that he's going to find out real quick that this is not patty cake season. We're not doing our nails on Saturdays. This is time to get your nails dirty, right? This is where you got to dig in. The Packers are the Packers, so you can never count the Packers out of anything ever. I just think that the last 8 games that Mr. Sycamore gave a lot of credit to Jordan Love was the exception and not the rule. And I think that Jordan Love is not going to have a seamless year this season. I feel like he's going to have some trouble. I think that he's been exposed a little bit last year on what he does bad. And I think the good teams like the Detroit Lions are going to expose it even further this year. He is terrible under pressure. And now that you have a defense like we do that can cause pressure and then maintain on the back end, it's going to be a bad couple of games for Jordan Love. The Lions, they got better. They just keep getting better. Lions all day. And then I'll come back to this statement if you want about the Athletic and what they had to say about the Lions this year. Or if you want to read it, I believe that you have the article too.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and let you get into that one. But before we do that, I just, the thing about Caleb Williams, I don't know, because it's the age of social media, but I'm not sure that there has ever been a more overhyped rookie quarterback before ever taking a single snap in the NFL. I don't even think Trevor Lawrence got all this hype. And then speaking of Trevor Lawrence, with that asinine contract that he just got for doing absolutely nothing in the league, and then you still get $275 million, 142 due at signing, $200 million guaranteed, $55 million a year. That's just, I don't know what to say about that. I guess the Jags are going to jag. But here's the thing about Caleb Williams. Now, I've heard reports that Caleb Williams, the Bears are kind of like judiciously trying to get him ready for the NFL. He was like 95% in the shotgun last season in college. So they're trying to get him ready to take snaps under center and things of this nature. The one saving grace for Caleb Williams will be if you take Caleb Williams and you swap him and Bryce Young last year. Now this is something I saw, so I can't take 100% for this take. So shout out to Unc and Ocho. I got to give them their credit where their credit is due. If you take Bryce Young and you change his position with Caleb Williams would have struggled the same way as Bryce Young did last year, because there was no one on the Panthers, not a single person. So the saving grace for Caleb Williams is that he's coming into a situation where he has an excellent receiving core, allegedly, because we don't know what Rome Odunze is going to do. We don't know how many games Keenan Allen is going to play. Keenan Allen is a walking injury. So we know he'll probably miss a nice healthy chunk of games. And we know that DJ Moore is good. DJ Moore was an excellent receiver for Justin Fields last season. So we know that what DJ Moore can do. So he'll have that kind of, airbag, that kind of buffer to stop him from crashing out. Just throw it to your playmakers, man. Just short passes, quick passes, just get it into their hands. So that's going to allow him to kind of look better than he actually is. But then we go back to the craziness, and we're talking about these publications. So we're talking about mostly PFF, but FanDuel, I don't know if you saw this yesterday. FanDuel put out a tweet, and it was a question that they asked, and I don't even know why you would ask this question. They asked us to name 5 quarterbacks better than Caleb Williams. At what point has Caleb Williams played in the NFL? He hasn't.
Yeah, that's a little mind-boggling. I mean, even putting these rookie quarterbacks into any of these graphics right now, I understand it's guess season. You know, you're just making an educated guess about where you feel like these quarterbacks are going to end up at the end of the season. But they're giving these guys too much credit, man. Way too much credit. I would put every rookie quarterback in the bottom 10, the bottom third of the NFL until week 8. And then rejudge, you know, how well or how badly they've played. But they should never be above, you know, the top 2/3 of the quarterbacks. I mean, these, whether you like them or not, these quarterbacks are all pretty darn elite. It's just the team that's around them that, you know, typically causes some trouble and the decisions that they make personally. But I couldn't name 5 quarterbacks in the NFL right now that aren't better than Caleb Williams because he hasn't taken a snap.
That's 100%. Now he could take his first snap and instantly like leapfrog 29 quarterbacks. And I'm not talking about 29 starters, right? I'm not talking about 29 starters that he would leapfrog after his first snap. Because if he just takes his first snap and he does something crazy with it, right? There's backups there that he's going to have to leapfrog. You know, I saw a response to the tweet and somebody just not being facetious, like being halfway facetious, but being halfway honest. When they said name 5 quarterbacks better than Caleb Williams, he named 5 backups.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Didn't even go to the starters. But just to kind of put a bow on the rookie quarterback talk, if we look at how many universities, colleges play football, right? There's like what, over 100,000 collegiate athletes that play college football, right?
Right.
And then you take the best of those, let's say 200-300 colleges, and you smash it all down into 32 teams, right? You smash it all down into 32 teams. So everyone on that team was likely one of the best people on their college teams, right? So let's say that the NFL is an all-star league for colleges, right? You don't see the guys that were, you know, walk-ons that you know barely made the team, or guys that were just out there playing for fun and it'd be good to get on a team, and they have no aspirations to go to the NFL. No, you see all the people that made it, and you see all the people that had the ability to get to the NFL. And that is why it's so difficult. It's a much different game. It is not the same game. If you're looking at the college game, it's not the same game as the NFL, and that's why people have the difficulty transitioning. It's a much faster game. It's a much more physical game. It's more mentally taxing. It's a lot of different things and a lot of stuff that you have to deal with. And I think now, not to get too much into college, but I think now with the NIL, there are going to be guys that don't actually make it into the NFL because they got that NIL money, right? And those guys are what we call turds, right? The guys that just kind of fall off once they get their money, right? So now that you're giving these college guys money, I think the level of athlete that gets into the NFL might be even higher, because you have the guy that has that dedication. Okay, you gave me 10 million in college. That's fine. I'm cool. But I still want, I still dream, I still desire, I still hunger. I'm still very gritty, right? And bullish on getting to the NFL. So I believe that that's kind of one of the things that you might see with the NIL. While it might kind of ruin college athletics, as they say, I think the product on the NFL field is going to be that much better for it, because it's going to serve as kind of a filtering out of the turds.
Yeah, so I think that there's about 12,000 Division I college athlete or college football players. I think it's about 12,000.
Yeah, I wasn't counting just Division I. I was talking about all of them.
Yeah, so but 12,000. If you want to look at like the top tier of the players at the college level, you got 12,000, and out of those 12,000, you have what? How about 252? They get drafted every year. Is that the number? You got 7 rounds, 224, 252, somewhere in that range. 230 guys that get drafted every year out of 12,000. So, you have like a 1.5% chance of making it in the NFL. And, the absolute worst cornerbacks, or I'm sorry, the absolute best cornerbacks that, these young quarterbacks faced are going to be the threshold in the NFL. They're going to be the worst cornerbacks that they're going to face in the NFL. So it just to some degree, right? Like Terry and Arnold's obviously the exception to the rule. Those guys, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Ennis Rakestraw. So these guys are really good, but the large majority that are getting, drafted later, and the guys that are already in the league, they're all elite. Every single one of them is elite. Just some are just a little bit better than others. And shout out to the other channel, the All Grit podcast channel. So I see that there's quite a few people over there in the chat. This system is supposed to bring in everybody into one chat, but I see that it's not doing that. After like the first week or so, this show will be like primarily just on that channel, which is at the All Grit Pod, the old channel. So that's where it will reside, and there'll be more interaction on other nights. So I apologize if some things were missed, but just give it a week and there'll be more action over there. So don't feel lonely. Chef will get to you guys, I promise. I wanted to comment one thing. So the one graphic that we were looking at here of where the Lions belong, the odds to win the division. Well, the Athletic took it a step further. And I thought that this was amazing. Like, I have not seen any other analyst as good as the Athletic. I think the Athletic, in my opinion, is probably the premium in all of the analysts out there. I think that they are probably the premium collective, if you will, of analysts and writers. And I'm not just saying that because, what they said about the Lions. I just feel like you get more straight shooters at the Athletic than you do anywhere else. Like, the NFL writers seem to be biased. Obviously your hometown guys, your insiders, they can be biased. They're jaded, depending on who they are. I think the Athletic does a good job at kind of being equal, right? Giving credit where credit is due. And for the first time ever, this is what I've read about the Lions. And this is shocking to me. So Detroit Lions are ranked odds on favorite, 10.5 wins. The over on 10.5 wins. Odds on favorite by the Athletic is that they're going to win more than 10.5 games. I don't think that there's another site out there that has the Lions winning more than 9.5 games. But this is what they said. The Lions fixed their secondary in the offseason by drafting Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw Jr. and signing Amik Robertson. They forgot Carlton Davis, but the Lions signed Carlton Davis. And I think receiver Jamison Williams has a breakout year in year 3 to take this offense to another level. Offensive coordinator Ben Johnson made the right decision to stick around another season. And I think Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and the league's best running back tandem lead the Lions to the Super Bowl this season. There's a few things in here that are really important. Number one, Chef mentioned who was it they called the Lions running backs complimentary? Do you remember?
Quality depth. That was CBS.
Quality depth. There we go. CBS. So
Complete
according to
BS.
What is it?
Complete BS.
Yeah. So CBS.
Yes.
So, they call our running backs quality depth. And here you get an unbiased best tandem in the league. And I firmly believe that Jahmyr Gibbs is healthy last year. Both of those guys hit 1,000 plus. And I think that Jahmyr Gibbs has an even better season than what he had. I think that it was actually helpful that David Montgomery went down for a couple of games because that gave Jahmyr Gibbs the opportunity to kind of do it. You know, he had to go grow up and play big man ball. There was nobody to back him up. You know, you had Craig Reynolds, yes, but you know what I mean? There was really nobody to bail him out. He had to go do it, and he did it. And he did it. So I think that this was great to read that, you know, you have sites like this that, you know, take a different look at the Detroit Lions. They also said that the Green Bay Packers, they said, I think Jordan Love and the Packers, and this is the first time I'm reading this. So I think Jordan Love and the Packers overachieved a little last season, but I like what Green Bay did this offseason. Josh Jacobs will be a perfect fit as he is a tough runner. And I also think that Matt LaFleur will do a better job of using him in the passing game than the Raiders ever did. On defense, linebacker Edrin Cooper and safety Javon Bullard are nice chess pieces. It's rare when a team brings in 4 new safeties, but I like the 4 guys they brought in. They brought in 4 new safeties because they're going up against the Lions twice a year, potentially more. That's why they brought in 4 new safeties. We completely rip them apart. But I like what they started with and how they ended it. You know, I felt like the Packers overachieved too. Like I said, the last 8 games was the exception, not the rule for the Packers last year. I think that Jordan Love is going to have a complete season this year of ups and downs more frequently. I don't think it's going to be all down then all up. I think that he's going to be kind of riding that roller coaster and in the waves, you know, the whole season. So anyway, good information, but I just wanted to share those 2 teams because those are the 2 top teams in the division. Clearly the Lions, according to The Athletic, are headed to the Super Bowl this year. And I think that's a great mentality to have as a Detroit Lion. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, I mean, on the Jordan Love thing, I think that I've figured it out because, and we'll get into it in a bit, right? The exception, not the rule, those 8 games. And everyone is discounting, other than The Athletic, right? Everyone other than The Athletic is discounting the first 9 games where Jordan Love looked like utter garbage, right?
Yeah.
He looked like hot garbage, okay? But I think I've understood, and I think, this is my theory. I have no proof, no evidence to back this up. The NFL and the NFL community at large need the Packers to be with quarterbacks as the Pittsburgh Steelers have been with coaches. You guys talked about this earlier this morning when you talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers having 3 coaches in 53 years, right? They went from Chuck Noll to Bill Cowher to Mike Tomlin. And wouldn't it be so cool if the Green Bay Packers went from Brett Favre, who they did not draft, they kind of lucked into him. They got him from the Falcons, and I'm sure the Falcons have kicked themselves multiple times from moving on from Brett Favre.
I wish they would have kept him.
Yeah, for the Lions, I definitely wish they would have kept him. Right?
Yeah.
So they go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. Horrible human beings. Okay, Brett Favre is a horrible human being. We know. Aaron Rodgers, he's just a bit of an ass. You know, he's not great as far as humanity. My favorite Aaron Rodgers moment was when he was talking stuff on a Detroit radio station about the city of Detroit, and Sue concussed him that game. Right after he was talking, he got knocked out. But anyway, so then they want Jordan Love. Jordan Love has to be this 3rd quarterback in like 30 years to come on and just be that guy. So like the Packers can't miss on quarterbacks. That is my theory, because again, it's just inexplicable. If you took any other quarterback on any other team and you gave him 9 games of garbage and 8 games of, decent to exceptional, right? Most people would be like, yeah, I got to see it another year because I don't know which one he is. I don't know if he's the first 9-game guy or if he's the second 8-game guy. And that would be perfectly fine. That would be perfectly logical. If you give me 2 different sample sizes, I need to be able to see which one is which.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I like J Mommy's statement though in here first. I think that she said, I'm glad that trolls have found your show because that means that the word is spreading and people just love to bring up the Lions past, but they are afraid of what the Lions will be. And what does that speak to with, the Green Bay Packers quarterback situation? I don't know, man. I don't think that Jordan Love is the final answer. Let's just put it that way. At all. I don't think that he's the final answer for the Green Bay Packers. As far as Aaron Rodgers being a bad human or whatever, I think he's a decent person, off the field. I think, yeah, he's kind of a jerk, like holding out at camp right now, but he's really not holding out. He's got a thing that he's doing. Yeah, he just does dumb stuff. I feel like he feels like his what doesn't stink, and he just runs the show. And that's, I think that's why his career the last decade has not been what many hoped it would be. And Brett Favre before him, man, look, Brett Favre that dude is probably the gutsiest quarterback on the field. Yeah, he might have made some mistakes after he left football. With some business deals and that he got involved in. But as far as the player on the field, what an incredible quarterback to have. But now you have Jordan Love. And as far as the Green Bay Packers not missing on quarterbacks, I mean, I think that would be a phenomenal streak if they were able to pull that off. I just don't see it. I don't see it just yet. Was there another question in there that I missed? Oh, I lost you.
No, I was just asking about what do you think about the theory of them not missing? I don't believe that they've not missed yet with Jordan Love. I don't believe in them yet. So that was the question. Like, do you think that is a plausible theory?
He hasn't done enough.
Mm-hmm.
I need to see more. Like one season's not enough, and I think that when you look at what Brad Campbell, like you call him, what they talk about, right? I mean, you can't judge these guys until they've played for like 3 seasons, right? Even though Jordan Love has been in the league for longer than 3 seasons, he's only played 1. So we need to see, one, how the Green Bay Packers build the team around him, and 2, what he does with the assets they do have, before we can pass any judgment on how good or bad he really is. But then that's where the theory, I think, will kick in on them not missing on Jordan Love and hitting 3 in a row. I think that he has a good opportunity. I mean, I did like some of the things that I saw out of Jordan Love at the tail end of the season. There was a minute there, I kid you not, and I even said this on probably one of the shows, and I heard it recently from other people saying the same thing. There was a minute there that I kid you not, that Jordan Love was making throws that if he had number 12 on, you would have thought that it was Aaron Rodgers. It was identical body mechanics, the way he contorted his arm. I mean, just everything that he was doing was mimicking Aaron Rodgers. And I think that that's a product of him sitting behind Aaron Rodgers for all those years and learning everything that he did, how he prepared, how he challenged, himself every week, how he stayed ingrained in the game, and, how he handled adversity. And there's a lot of good lessons there. I can't say that the Lions have had that opportunity, right? So if we're going to throw this into how does it fit with the Lions, it doesn't, right? I mean, the Lions have never really had that opportunity to groom somebody. And I think that's the one thing that we're really missing is an opportunity to draft somebody and allow them to sit behind somebody really good. And maybe we get that with Jared Goff. Maybe at the tail end of Jared's career, if he does stay here long enough, maybe we do get that, with him. I don't know. I really don't know. It's too early. Right now, I just want to focus on winning a Super Bowl. And then at that point, I could probably retire from podcasting, to be honest with you. I would be that happy. We'll see.
Well, speaking of winning the Super Bowl, all right, another favorable PFF odds situation is the odds to make the playoffs. And according to PFF, the Lions have the third best odds in the NFC, all of the NFC, not the NFC North, all of the NFC to make the playoffs next season. 75% for the 49ers, 63% for the Eagles, 62% for the Detroit Lions. Now, a very notable point in this graphic is that the Lions have a 62% chance and the Dallas Cowboys have a 60% chance.
Yeah. They're always trying to mess with us, aren't they?
So what do you think about the Lions having a better chance, not by much, but in PFF's eyes, having a better chance than the Dallas Cowboys to reach the playoffs once again?
This is where I don't understand PFF. Because everything that they talk about, like I do listen to them once in a while. For some reason, they're just one of the shows, along with Chris Sims, that seems to pop up on my YouTube. And listening to what they say about the Lions and what they say about the Cowboys and how good the Cowboys are, and this doesn't make sense to me. Like, I can't believe that they even have the Lions ranked in the top 3. Let alone, to be honest with you, ranked above the Packers, because not too long ago, they were just saying that the Packers are a better team than the Lions just in the last few weeks. So it doesn't make any sense. And I don't know who put this graphic together. I don't know if this is the official PFF or if this is somebody at PFF, that put this together. But for me, it's telling that PFF is so darn wishy-washy. I feel like they're just throwing darts trying to get something right. But my honest opinion here with this ranking is, how on earth do the 49ers have a 13-point lead over the Lions and a 12-point lead over the Eagles? And why are the Eagles even in the top 5? That's what I don't get. The Falcons, that doesn't make any sense to me. The Bears shouldn't ever be anywhere near this graphic at all. The Rams, I feel like, should be higher than the Falcons and the Packers. If I were to rework this here's where it would be. Odds to just make the playoffs. I think you have to look at every division just as the whole of the division and how good each division is, right? So let me pull up something right here to help me. If we were to look at each division here, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Looks like they got 8 teams represented. So if you were to look at AFC East, they're not represented in this for whatever reason. But the Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins, I think that both of those teams would have a pretty darn good chance at making the playoffs. The AFC North, the Baltimore Ravens. What's that?
This is NFC rankings.
Oh, it's only NFC? Okay, let me go to the NFC.
Yeah.
I missed that. So NFC, if you look at, the NFC East, clearly the Dallas Cowboys and Philadelphia Eagles have a great opportunity. So maybe that's why, they're higher on the list, because the Giants and the Commanders, are the Giants and the Commanders for right now. I think the Washington Commanders have a better season this year than the Giants, but may not be enough to make the playoffs. So NFC East, Dallas Cowboys or Philadelphia Eagles should have a chance to make the playoffs, if not both. The NFC North, clearly the Lions have odds-on favorites to make the playoffs ahead of the Green Bay Packers. But do the Green Bay Packers have a better chance to make the playoffs over the Saints, the Rams, the Niners, the Bucks, the Eagles, the Cowboys? That's the question. You know, do they have a better chance? I would say they have an equal chance. NFC South, Tampa Bay Bucks and New Orleans Saints. I'm not sold on anybody in the NFC South, and I haven't been for a long time, but someone has to make it. So I would say that that's where maybe the Packers get thrown in there at a little bit higher clip because the NFC South is trash. But I'll put the Bucks in. NFC West, yeah, you got the 49ers and the Rams that should make it. Absolutely. But don't even think of sitting on the Arizona Cardinals because that team could have a very big bounce back year this season. And I really expect them to. But the Bears shouldn't be anywhere near this list. And the Falcons, I mean, look, they just don't belong on this list until we even know how well Kirk Cousins is going to be able to play. So kind of weird, but I would put it, you know, Lions at number 2 on this list, maybe with a 70%. I don't think that they're going to lose the North. And I don't think that their percentage of making the playoffs is any worse than the San Francisco 49ers that still have to beat out the Los Angeles Rams that only, you know, lost 2 more games than the 49ers did last year. And, you know, we don't know what's happening with Ayuk yet, right? We don't know the holdout situations in you know, San Francisco. So there's just too many unanswered questions. But this is highly a biased PFF graphic once again.
Right. So this came out from PFF, their Twitter account or their X account, if you'd like to call it X. I mean, I guess you should call it X because that's the name of it. But we're so used to calling it Twitter that it doesn't really matter. But it came out from their official account. So this is just what they believe in. So the last thing I want to touch on regarding PFF is one Trevor Sikkema. Now, you guys may have heard this name before. This is the name that ranks quarterbacks. This is the man that when they released, PFF released their top 10 quarterbacks in the NFC. Do you know who this man put as number 1? He put none other than Rain Dakota Prescott as the number 1 quarterback in the NFC. He also put Caleb Williams as the number 10 quarterback in the NFC before like the beginning of OTAs. So you hadn't even seen anything. And he goes, so as he tried to explain himself, he said, well, I'm a draft guy, so it would have been disingenuous to not put Caleb Williams on this list. Well, here's the thing. Didn't Caleb Williams have something like 20 turnovers last season?
Yeah, I think he threw 19 interceptions.
All right. And he had a bunch of fumbles, like
5. Yeah.
5. So that's 24 turnovers. But you're a draft guy, so you should know this. Like, it's your job. He's already started looking at the quarterbacks for next year, breaking them down. So it's your job to understand these things. It's your job to know these things. At least that's what you tell us. You tell us it's your job. So how do you put people like Caleb Williams on lists? How do you put people like Dak Prescott as number 1? How do you put Jared Goff as the number 7 quarterback in the NFC? How do you put Jared quarterback as the number, I think it was 16, quarterback in the entire league? Here's how. PFF has a stat called big time throws. In this stat, it is defined as throws that a quarterback makes 20 plus yards down the field into tight windows. Now, if you hear that, you're like, that's a really specific stat that you guys made up.
Wait, right? say it again.
Big time throws. Okay, so you're already laughing. Like big time throws, and it gets worse. Big time throws is defined as throws that quarterbacks make 20 plus yards down the field into tight windows.
20-yard throws into tight windows.
20 plus yard throws down the field into tight windows.
Before you even go on, I'm going to say this. Caleb Williams couldn't even hit the damn net in training camp.
Mm-hmm.
He was struggling. He was throwing the ball everywhere, just like Hendon Hooker was. He was struggling. So nothing's changed so far. Keep going. This is interesting that they make up these stats, and yeah, this is the whole conspiracy about PFF right now.
But it's going to get worse because now, while he defined this, he also said that he doesn't like to define it as such. So basically what you're saying is you want to leave it open-ended so you can change what the definition of a big time throw is. So when you just pull up a stat, per big time throws, such and such a quarterback is like such and such. But then you don't want to keep big time throws, a stat which you made up so that you could push narratives. You don't even want to keep it as what you've defined it as. How do you define it and then say, but I don't like to define it that way? That makes no freaking sense.
No.
At all whatsoever. I would like, and I do have a link. I do have a link to Trevor Sikkema. I would like to get him on the show, but I know that I will probably excoriate him. Yes, I use the excoriate like Stephen A. Smith. I will probably rip him a new one because this is all grit all day. And we don't pull any punches. But when you come up here and you say, hey, I'm going to rank quarterbacks and then I'm going to use stats which I can twist and turn. First of all, they're made up stats, and then I can twist and turn them to do whatever I want with them. This is why people think that there is a conspiracy with PFF. What do you think about this big time stats and all of this stuff?
Yeah, I think the big time stats thing, or the big time throw stat,
I said big time throws. Sorry, I said
big time throws is that's a hot mess. I mean, it's to your point. It's a stat that they're using to allow themselves to rank other quarterbacks higher to fit their bias. That's all it is. I mean, when I look at his rankings, Jared Goff at 16, Kirk Cousins with a busted ACL at 15, Tua Tagovailoa at 14, Brock Purdy at 13. Like that's even an indictment right there. Like Brock Purdy should not be behind Tua, and he definitely shouldn't be behind Trevor Lawrence at 12. He shouldn't be behind Jordan Love at 11, and neither should Jared Goff. CJ Stroud at 10, Jalen Hurts at 9, Aaron Rodgers with a busted ACL and 55 years old at 8, Matthew Stafford at 7, Dak Prescott, who completely got blown out in the playoffs, at 6, Justin Herbert at 5, who's absolutely done nothing, Josh Allen at 4, who is a Mr. Choke artist in the playoffs, Joe Burrow. Doesn't he have a busted ACL too from last year? Or what did he did? He had a major injury.
It was an elbow.
And whatever. He was out the whole season. So we don't even know if he can throw, right? And then he got Lamar Jackson at 2. Okay. And Patrick Mahomes at 1. Here's my list. Based on recent wins, recent Super Bowls, recent playoff wins, recent statistics, top 5, top 10 statistics in the NFL. Sure. Patrick Mahomes probably near the very top of that list. Lamar Jackson in short order in the top 3. Just based on recency, right? I don't even know if recency is a word. Josh Allen, probably in the top 6. Jared Goff clearly in the top 5. Clearly. Now I'm not going to make excuses for Jared Goff's lack of mobility outside the pocket, but guess what? his offense is predicated on having security with inside the pocket so that he can make the throws as a pocket passer. It's not a systems guy. I mean, that's just how the system works. Why would you want to put your quarterback in harm's way? I mean, for decades, for 60 plus years, quarterbacks in the NFL didn't run the ball to run the ball. They ran the ball to escape, and that was it. But Jared Goff gets the ball out in under 2.7 seconds for a reason, because his guys are open. So you can't make up all these excuses for all these other quarterbacks and put them ahead of Jared Goff because he doesn't run around the field, with the ball in his hand. But Dak Prescott at 6, yeah, good stats. He had actually some really good stats last year, 37 big time throws. He's in the top 10. Stafford definitely in the top 10. Aaron Rodgers, no way in the top 10. Jalen Hurts has to be in the top 10. CJ Stroud, great rookie season, probably at number 10. I could believe in that one. But Jordan Love, no way ahead of Jared Goff, no way ahead of Brock Purdy. That's more of what I'm looking like. But I got Jared Goff probably as the fifth best, fourth best quarterback in the NFL right now. And no, you don't have to be a running quarterback, to be big time in this league. But putting Caleb Williams at 19, put the pipe down, dude. I mean, come on. Like, really?
There's more.
It just doesn't make any sense.
There's more with the pipe. There's more synthetic smoking. Trevor Sycamore said he would be willing to put Jared Goff in the top 10, and it's predicated on the amount of yak yards that J-Mo gets. So he didn't say he wants to see Goff hitting J-Mo downfield and things. No. He wants J-Mo taking quick slants, which are 3 or 4 yard throws, and taking them to the house, getting 75 yards after. Like, he wants J-Mo picking up the yards. Hold on. He wants J-Mo picking up the yards, and that's going to put Jared Goff into the top 10.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Didn't he just say that he was basing a lot of these off of downfield explosive throws?
Yes.
And then you come back and say, well, I could put the quarterback a little bit higher for doing the exact opposite of that and allowing the receiver to have a bunch of yak yards. He totally contradicted himself here. This is why I love what I do, because, I mean, we talk facts and stats that make sense. We don't just pull from the clouds and just say anything that comes out of our mouth, because if that's truly what he's saying, right, and that's what he's writing, which he did, he contradicted himself. So he's got these players ranked in a fashion because they're throwing big time throws, they're throwing deep shots. Matter of fact, in one of his write-ups on Dak Prescott, he talks about the 37 big-time throws in the regular season were the most in the NFL, and his 2% turnover-worthy play rate was the lowest among quarterbacks with at least 400 dropbacks. So he's ranking these guys, based on, big-time throws. Matt Stafford, 32 big-time throws. Doesn't make any sense that you turn around and then say you want your quarterback to throw for yak.
And then also what doesn't make any sense is, like, what does the offense call for? Right? Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson are not running the ball because Jared Goff is bad. They're running the ball because they have 2 excellent running backs.
Yeah, exactly.
It's part of the offense, and that in and of itself should allow you to rank Jared Goff higher, because not only did you have 2 running backs just about eclipse 2,000 rushing yards between them. All right. Jared Goff still threw for 4,500 yards.
Is it a cat that I hear back there? See,
It's my pet lion.
Yeah, he's pissed off too. I mean, you heard him. He's pissed off. He's pissed off at how Sycamore is trashing our players and our quarterbacks, and he's totally wishy-washy on his stats. But to your point about why we're running the ball, and guess what? We want to run the ball even more this year, according to Dan Campbell. They want to run the ball down everybody's throat because we can, not because we have to, but because we can. And if you can control the line of scrimmage with your running backs, guess what that does for the defense? Gives them a rest, gives them a break so that when they come in, they can, break some people off while they're in the game and have more energy. The Lions are doing it the right way. I'm just glad that these guys say this stuff, because when we do our shows, man, we look like geniuses when it all turns out in the end. So keep doing what you're doing, Trevor, because I love it. I mean, I love to have the content to talk about. And at the end of the day, we'll cash in the receipts at the end of the season like we did this year. So, doesn't make any sense, man. But in all joking aside, Trevor, I mean, hey, we're just having fun too, but kind of doesn't make sense, guy. It just doesn't make sense.
As they say, the math isn't mathing.
I was just going to say the same thing. The math isn't mathing, man. Like, it's just not. So,
all right. So, do we have any final thoughts on, PFF and all these publications that are just, CBS? We have the historic, one of the historically greatest backfields in the history of the NFL, per their stats, and they are just quality depth. You got FanDuel asking us to rank 5 or to name 5 quarterbacks that are better than Caleb Williams, and you have all of these other asinine rankings and lists. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they're doing it just for clicks, because I just don't understand how so many people could be watching the same thing and seeing something totally different. And it's not like, okay, you got 2 people watching something and you're seeing 2 different things. It's like you've got 50 people watching something and 50 people are seeing something different. And I just don't think that there's that many versions of reality. So my theory is that they're doing it all for clicks and they don't really mean all of this stuff. What do you think?
I don't know if that's good for business. And by the way, I keep hearing your mic move around. I don't know if that's a good business model to just, do it for clicks, because at the end of the season, you're going to want to get some things right? I mean, you're going to want to have those receipts to cash. I mean, if you look at like Kyle Brandt, and Peter Schrager, they love the fact that when they talk about stuff early in the season, that they come, it comes full circle towards the end of the season where they're like, we called this in the early season. We saw this happening and developing, and we were right. And what that does, it's not so much to just toot their own horn, right, and brag. It lends credibility that they're actually putting the right work in, so that you should feel more comfortable when you listen to them or read what they're putting down, that you're getting good quality, accurate information. And that's the same type of thing that we try to do here. And I've gotten a lot right on the other show, not this show because this is a new show, but Rock Down Detroit Lions has gotten a lot right. And that's because we put a ton of time in. And we put a ton of time in so that we can deliver truth and honesty and transparency and try to have some fun with it too. And that's the same thing that this channel is going to do. So I guess my overall opinion on that is, I think that's bad for business if that's what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, come on. Everyone's doing things for clicks. That's the name of the game right now. But you know what gets better clicks? Just delivering wholesome content and being consistent and trying to put your best foot forward by delivering the stats and the facts to the people that deserve it the most, which is all of us as fans. I think that's probably the bottom line for me, and why I do this is I got into this because it was so jaded. Like the media industry. I mean, there's a few reasons why I got into it, but the biggest part of it was because the media industry is so jaded with clickbait or, driving narratives that I didn't want to see anymore. I wanted to deliver something that was actually different, that was more wholesome, like I just said. So I think it's bad business if that's what they're doing it for, because it'll come back to bite them in the end.
100%. 100%. Well, guys, that is a wrap on the All Grit Podcast, episode 1. And we will see you next time. Peace.
See you guys Sunday night, 7 p.m. We'll be back on All Grit Podcast. Thanks, Chef.
Yep.